Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the DC Squad Pod with Chris. I'm your host tonight, Ryan. Let's give Chris a warm welcome to the uSTADIUM family. How's it going, Chris?
Oh, man. I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to be here. Yeah. My name is Chris. I created the Cowboys page on Instagram called Dallas Cowboys Squad, and I'm partnered with uSTADIUM as one of their mega fans. Very excited to be producing content on their app and hopefully being on live stream with y'all every week.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me get that pushed out real quick because that's the one thing I forgot to do. So there's the share button. So today it's a little different from the other shows that we do. Today it's gonna be more of a Q&A. But if the Cowboys were to sign someone, I don't want to. Let's say, I guess John Johnson signed in Cleveland, but let's say you got some.
I would have loved.
Let's say you get someone. We can talk about that, of course, but it's going to be a Q&A with some of your followers on Instagram. So, let's get right into it.
Sure.
All right. So question numero uno. This is from @Munoz_214. What do you think about the offensive line contract restructures that freed up about $17 million in cap space?
Well, I think it was a very important move because heading into that, we had about zero cap space left to work with. So restructuring the deals of Tyron Smith, La'el Collins, and Zach Martin, it gives us a little bit of wiggle room in free agency. We're still not on the top end of the pack in terms of cap space. We're about average. I think we're 17th in the league, if I'm correct, about in that area. So, it gives us a little bit to work with. The Cowboys aren't heavy spenders in free agency, at least recently. It's not been a thing. They always like to go kind of in the back half of the second wave of free agency, and they like to get the players that most teams pass over, and their market really wasn't what they expected. But that gives us enough money to add some decent depth pieces on the defensive line, at least.
Absolutely. Dallas had one of the weird offensive line seasons last year. Smith was hurt. Frederick recently retired, so it's lots of moving pieces. Zach Martin was playing right tackle at some points of the year, and it was important to reorganize that. And I think moving forward, Dallas should have one of the best lines in the NFL yet again.
Hope so. I really hope so. That's really what we put all of our money into. We gave a huge contract to Tyron Smith, huge contract to Zach Martin, well-deserved, but also gave a big contract to La'el Collins. So if we can keep all of them healthy on the field, right then all you really need is a good left guard and a center, and you're good to go. So.
Oh, and I love the Tyler Biadasz out of Wisconsin.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
He's
that was a great pick.
He's going to be a star for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of spending a lot of money in free agency, so this is a little two-pronged question. This is from Dawson Ringette. So part one, who do you see the Cowboys getting in free agency? And part two, who do you want them to sign?
This question, the answer kind of changes a little bit now than what I would originally said heading in today. I had a lot of guys who I would have loved the Cowboys to pick up. John Johnson was one of them. Who do I see us picking up? I could definitely see Damontae Kazee out of the Falcons. He's a free safety over there. He's coming off an Achilles tear, which, is a little bit worrisome, but it makes a lot of sense because with Dan Quinn now being the defensive coordinator in Dallas, he was the head coach with the Falcons, and our passing game coordinator, Joe Witt Jr., was also the passing game coordinator under Dan Quinn in Atlanta. So it would make a lot of sense for a guy like Damontae Kazee. I would have been interested in Keanu Neal also. Probably more expensive signing than Damontae Kazee would be. But I think Kazee honestly fits a little bit better with the Cowboys with his ball hawking ability and his range, playing the free safety position. He could be next to Donovan Wilson, and I think that would be really good for our back end. Some other guys that I would really like to see us go for would be recently released defensive tackle Malcolm Brown off of the Saints. He's a good run stuffer, and that's what the Cowboys need. We need a lot of that in the middle. Our defensive tackles with Antoine Woods and Tristan Hill, it's not the best. I like them a lot. I like them a lot as depth players, but I don't know if for a team that really wants to contend on the defensive side of the ball, I think we need a little bit more there. Some players, I have written down that I would love for us to pick up would be, a Dalvin Tomlinson off the Giants, big defensive tackle, big 300-pound guy. That's probably the biggest name and biggest thing that we could do, realistically on the defensive side of the ball. I would love Casey Hayward bringing in at the cornerback position. Patrick Peterson, KJ Wright would also make a good amount of sense because Dan Quinn was a defensive coordinator over there in Seattle for a little bit. So I would love KJ Wright to that linebacker core. And also this would be more of a mentorship thing, but I think Richard Sherman would be something to keep an eye on. I think it would make sense because, again, Dan Quinn with that Seattle connection, and the Cowboys have a lot of youth at the cornerback position. What we need is we need that mentor. We need that guy who can really pull that all together. And even though Richard Sherman isn't that guy at this point of his career, that he used to be, I think he could definitely be a good mentor to Trevon Diggs and hopefully a corner we pick high in the draft. That's what I'm hoping for.
See, I really liked Diggs coming out of college. I know some people on the app, some people like I've talked to weren't huge on Diggs, but I'm a big fan. And if you can get Richard Sherman, who knows the Dan Quinn system like almost no one else, that would be a great, mentorship. Like Sherman can teach Diggs the ins and outs because Diggs is super athletic, maybe not quite like, I think he has more long speed than Sherman, but Sherman is, has like ball skills for days. Diggs, not quite as great of a ball skills kind of guy. That's an Alabama thing. That's a Dallas Cowboys thing. But I think that would be a good old Byron Jones. He had 2 interceptions with Dallas.
Yeah, no, Byron Jones was never really that ball hawk. But I will say that we definitely missed him because, one thing he could do is he could take away a receiver. So, we don't have that really right now in that cornerback room.
Yeah, and, Dallas has this great offense, and then you have nice pieces around the defense. DeMarcus Lawrence is an all-world caliber guy. Diggs is nice. Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch had down years, but, they're generally good at football.
Yeah, no, I would hope so. I'm hoping that the Dan Quinn acquisition really changes things, because, it's not like Jalen Smith just, forgot how to play football. I still think he has the talent there. He just, I think there were some scheme issues and they just weren't really, meshing well together. So I hope Dan Quinn can bring the best out of them again.
Absolutely. So we're going to pivot a little bit. Dan Quinn is going to get some pieces in the draft, but this is from @_fatcheese. Who do you want the Cowboys to draft at pick number 10?
My favorite pick has to be Patrick Surtain second out of Alabama. I know we just talked about that Alabama connection, and he was actually teammates with Trevon Diggs for a little bit there in Alabama. He's just, he has great size. He's 6'2", and he's the son of 3-time Pro Bowl cornerback Patrick Surtain, who played in the NFL for 11 seasons. Surtain has all the technical, sound just abilities that you look for in a corner. His speed, like it leaves a little bit to be desired. But outside of that, I would definitely love Patrick Surtain. And going down this list, I would love Suo, but I don't think we're gonna get him. I think he'll get snagged up before then. But I think we got to go defense. Realistically, out of this big board that I have on my page right there, we have 8 of the 10 as defensive players. 7 out of the 10 outside of Sewell, Rashawn Slater, and Kyle Pitts. And so I think defense is definitely a big thing we got to address in the draft early.
So I'm intrigued that you have Surtain over Farley. I love Farley in the Dallas system. Like I like a lot of what Surtain does, but I think Farley's just like a little bit better athlete. It's like they're a 1A, 1B kind of corner to me, and I really want Surtain to end up at 9 with Denver and then Farley at 10 to Dallas, because I think Denver gets their Prince Amukamara guy to play on the Fangio defense, and you guys get a hyper-athletic Caleb Farley to be your Richard Sherman type in the Dan Quinn defense.
Yeah, I'm very for Caleb Farley too. I have him high on my big board. I would not be upset in the slightest, but I don't know, something about Surtain it's really intriguing to me. I don't know, that NFL bloodline. Has great technique. He has, he's just very polished. He's a very polished corner, and I think he could come in day one. I think his floor is a lot higher than Caleb Farley's, but I could see Farley's ceiling potentially being higher. But, the Cowboys are a team that I still believe, despite the record last year, if we can get some good pieces on the defense this upcoming year, we can do something in the playoffs with how talented our offense is. So if we can have some players who can come in and like off the bat be an impact, that would be preferred.
Absolutely. You have an offense that even won 6 games without Dak for most of the year. So you're getting top 10 quarterback back, I would imagine. Zeke/Pollard, you have a great wide receiver core. Your offensive line is going to improve. And if your defense isn't a catastrophe, like that's all, it just has to be okay. It has to be passable.
Yeah,
mediocre.
exactly.
Pick your favorite word.
We just got to be average. If we can be stable and not a liability, I think we can really compete.
Absolutely. That's a scary team because you guys can outscore anyone, really. And it's just a matter of making sure the other team doesn't score 50 sometimes. Yeah,
and I mean, you saw that in the first few weeks of this past season with, Dak. He's throwing for over 400, 500 yards in the first few weeks and putting up these heroic performances, but we were losing because defense just couldn't stop a nosebleed, It's terrible.
Absolutely.
But,
all right, we're going to head to another question. This is from @Lucas_Salvatore531. Who do you think are the top 3 best free agents that are must needs for Dallas?
Top 3 free agents that are must needs. I'm gonna first start off by position, and then I'm gonna go like into the player aspect. So top 3 positions that we got to address. I think defensive tackle has to be something that's addressed in free agency, because I really don't love the defensive tackle class for where we're drafting in the draft. I think by far the best defensive tackle in this draft is Christian Barmore out of Alabama. And I don't know if he's necessarily a pick 10 guy, So maybe if we trade down and get some more depth and draft him, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I think defensive tackle is definitely, I think, one of the biggest things we got to address. And with that, you got Dalvin Tomlinson, you got Malcolm Brown, you got Gerald McCoy even, who signed with the Cowboys this past year, but injuries didn't work out. So he's a free agent again. So even bringing him back, trying to give him another chance to be healthy would be good. And then I think the second biggest position in need would probably be cornerback, because we got a lot of guys who even are free agents. I mean, we got Chidobe Awuzie is a free agent. Jordan Lewis is a free agent. I mean, we got a lot of guys. I mean, we don't have a lot of cornerbacks even signed to our roster at the moment, So we got to look at that. And that, I could look at Casey Hayward, Richard Sherman, Patrick Peterson. Those are all 3 guys who would be instant, could make an impact on the team. I don't think we need projects in the secondary right now. We need guys who can come in off the bat and just help,
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, I would probably go the safety position because, again, I really loved Donovan Wilson last year. I think Donovan Wilson was great for us at the strong safety position. He really started to show out later into the season. And he actually put up a really impressive stat sheet throughout the year. I mean, he had forced a ton of turnovers. But on the opposite side of that free safety position, I think we could use a better coverage safety than Xavier Woods currently is for us. Absolutely. And that you could look for DeMonte Casey or I mean, I was looking at John Johnson. I mean, really, I was really wanted to get a free safety this free agency, but so many of them got tagged, I mean, you got Justin Simmons. That would have been a dream pick, but, he got tagged. And then Marcus May out of New York, I would have, loved that too. And, he also got tagged. So you got to make do with what's available.
Yeah, it's a tough year for safeties. I know Baltimore's been looking for safeties. They could go after some guys in the draft that we're going to talk about a little later, but they could go after a guy in the draft, and it just kind of sucks when you see like Simmons, who's an all-world caliber guy, and you see May, who some guys I really respect in the football community think he's the top 3, top 5 safety in the NFL. It's like, dang, why are you going back to New York? Why does the tag exist? Because they would get so much money on the open market. And that'd be really scary for Dallas, get that superstar, do-it-all safety. We saw in Pittsburgh, Minkah Fitzpatrick changed how he functions. And Dallas, you get a guy like May or Simmons or John
Cowboys
Johnson,
fans have
oh,
been
man.
begging for it for years, really since Roy Williams. I mean, we've been begging for one. The fan base has. I remember I really wanted Derwin James in that draft that he was in, and we ended up getting Leighton Vander Esch, which obviously wasn't a bad pick. Besides the health, but to see Derwin fall 2 spots ahead of us and us not make a move to get up there, I think that had a lot of the fan base upset. But it feels like the Cowboys have not really put a big emphasis or prioritize the safety position a lot throughout recent years. They're kind of like, being cheap with it and kind of, playing it safe. And I think they really got to be willing to spend money on one, because every year it seems like we have a hole at safety. And if we could just shore that up, I think it would do wonders for our defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because just from a passing perspective, safeties help over the top. They make life easier for Awuzie if he comes back. Diggs, yada yada yada. They just make life I can't talk today. They make life easier for them, and then you can help in run support, so you don't get gashed for 300 yards like you did against Baltimore, against Cleveland. As long as you keep the lid on. That's what makes some of these, like the Rams, that's what makes them so dominant defensively, is that they just don't allow you to get 40-yard plays. You have to get 10, 10, 8, 10, when against, say, the Cowboys, it's 30. Oh, guess what?
Yeah.
Nick Chubb just scored a 45-yard touchdown.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's crazy how much a safety can do for you, and it just doesn't seem like the Cowboys care sometimes. It's
right.
Frustrating battle us fans deal with.
Absolutely. And it's like, it must be nice to have a great offense, but then you see the defense and it's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
That must raise your blood pressure on Sunday afternoons.
It does a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
At Jerry CMD, same idea here. Do you think we will make a big move on the defensive side of the ball in free agency?
Well, big move, it depends how you would classify a big move. If you're talking about a big name free agent coming in, doesn't seem really likely at this stage, especially considering the guys who have been signed today, or at least agreed to deals. And I think really the biggest names that are left are those veterans that I've brought up, a Patrick Peterson, a Hayward, a Richard Sherman, or even a Dalvin Tomlinson. I think those are the biggest names that we could, pick up. But if you want to talk about a big move, I think we can make moves that wouldn't be headline big moves, but could really do a lot for us. Just picking up capable defensive players who don't have to be super, pricey, don't have to be big, flashy moves, but I think just bringing in like a Malcolm Brown off the Saints would be a big move for our defensive line, to give DeMarcus Lawrence, some help, from the interior, and to give Randy Gregory on the other side, and maybe even Aldon Smith if we can bring him back, just to give our edge pressures some help on the interior would be, I think, a big move for the Cowboys, and I think it would definitely help in the long run.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go to one of my questions that I just kind of thought of. So this is probably something you deal with as a Cowboys fan. The fans you see, they want the big names. They want Sherman. They want Pat Peterson, even though Patrick Peterson isn't very good at football anymore, or Sherman's not 2013 Sherman. So how do you kind of balance the expectation of, I'm a fan of the Cowboys, we should have a loaded roster every year, every single season, and big names, versus these guys are actually good at football, and I want them to play for my team, even though the most of the fan base is like, no. Why would we want some random guy out of the University of North Dakota State for the Blind?
Yeah. I think that Cowboys fans being that way and wanting big names is honestly from experience in the past, and the players we've signed who were kind of on the lower, end of the national media spectrum. In past years, we've signed players like Cedric Thornton. He didn't really make an impact. We signed a Nolan Carroll, who didn't really make an impact. The Cowboys have had a bad resume in terms of free agency and signing players that stick around and make a lasting impact. So I think Cowboys fans really want a guy who can, who is a big name, but like that big name, it's going to translate for the entire defense. And like even at the wide receiver position, whenever we were searching for one, because Des Bryant was kind of falling out of his prime, and our best receiver on the team at the moment was Cole Beasley, and we signed Allen Hurns, and it seemed like a big move for us at the time because we're not even used to getting names like that recently. I mean, it's been such a change since the 90s when we were signing Deion Sanders and trading for Charles Haley and making huge moves like that. So I think, and then Hurns didn't last long in Dallas. We keep going for players who we think could be big and aren't really national, household names, and they just haven't really worked out with us the way that our front office had hoped. And I feel like there's a lot of fans who question it at the time who would be like, "Oh, I told you so," I told you we should have gone after that bigger name, So I don't know.
Yeah, because hindsight's always 20/20.
For sure.
The fan doesn't necessarily have to say, well, I think X guy would be the best fit, but then 3 years down the line, he can say, oh, we should have grabbed yada yada yada. We should have drafted Jalen Ramsey instead of Ezekiel Elliott or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight bias it's a very real thing, and I think everyone likes to think that they would be the best owner for the Cowboys, but it's always easy to think you're right after it's happened, and not be put in the position to make those moves with a lot of uncertainties surrounding it.
Absolutely. So we're going to head into another question. This is from @LilProdigy_19. I love Instagram handles.
Yeah, we had Fat Cheese earlier, and
oh man. So what do you think of signing center Corey Linsley? I think that might be off the table.
It is off the table now. Yeah.
Drafting Central Florida safety Richie Grant in the second round.
So I would have been very okay with signing center Corey Linsley, but I think he ended up on the Chargers, right? Didn't that happen earlier?
Yeah. He's the highest paid center ever.
Jeez Louise. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would have been happy for it, but again, that would have been putting a lot of more money into the offensive line, and it would be taking up some space on the defense. And also I really like Tyler, at the center position. I think that we don't necessarily have to go big at that center position. I think he can really develop and be good. When it comes to UCF safety Richie Grant, I made a post right there that you see on the screen, and I would really like him in the second round. I think he's a guy who, he's a great athlete, has great sideline to sideline range. He's explosive, great ball skills, and he's a willing tackler, which is, it's a combination of things that are kind of rare to have in the NFL. I think the only knack on him is he's not necessarily the biggest, and he will turn 24, which is, that's pretty old for a rookie. But at the same time, that goes back to my previous statement that I was trying to make, that we need to get players who can come in now, and be good, because the Cowboys are in a weird position where we got young players, but at the same time, we have them all signed now. So we need to try and make a push, we got to try and make that push, while we have prime Dak Prescott, and while we have Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, if when we have these wide receivers together. I mean, Gallup isn't on a huge deal right now, and CeeDee Lamb's still in his rookie contract. So when those guys want to get paid, and it's going to make things harder to keep players around. So I'm not against bringing in a rookie who's a little bit on the older side if he can still make an immediate impact on the team. So I would be okay with Richie Grant for sure in the second round.
Yeah, I've been looking into Grant's film as a Ravens fan, as a guy that we could target in round 2. He really pops. It's a guy that makes plays everywhere, and as far as I can remember, can play in the slot if you need him to, can play up top, can play more like a box safety role from time to time. He's a guy that can really do it all, and that's something that Dallas certainly could use in that interesting secondary.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna keep with the safety theme for now. This is from @COD_J8281. Do you think we should go after Casey Hayward and draft TCU safety Trevon Moehrig instead of going after Alabama Patrick Surtain in the first round?
So I'm assuming by that he's meaning signing Hayward and then trading down, because obviously Trevon would not be a 10 pick, but he also is probably going to be a late first pick. I think he's probably going to be a middle to late first round pick at the safety position. I'm too high on those corners who could be a pick 10 to make that trade down. I'm too high on Surtain, too high on Farley. And honestly, I would even rather take JC Horn, I think, over Trevon at the safety position. I think that but like even with that, being the case, I'm totally for signing Casey Hayward and still drafting a cornerback high, because Hayward would be, some reassurance for the upcoming year or two, but after that, we still need a future in that secondary position.
Absolutely.
So as long as we get some cornerbacks for the future, I think that would be the best move.
I think it could be exciting. I know in some mocks that I've done, Dallas had both Surtain and Farley and Horn available at 10, so they would trade down a few spots and still pick up one of them and then get like a third later or a fourth later. I'm not really good with the late round compensation, but you get the idea. You get like an extra lottery ticket late, and you still get the guy you want or the second guy, Surtain or Farley or Horn. So that could be an option. I know Morik has been flying up draft boards. He's the guy that was a second round prospect, and now he's got Baltimore targeting at 27. He could go 25, 23. He could go maybe top 20. I don't think that happens, but he's a very talented guy, and that's what happens when you're the number one safety. It's something that happens with Christian Barmore as the number one interior guy, that he gets artificially pushed up a little bit. I think he could be a top 15 guy, but I don't know. Is that just because he's the best, or is that because he's actually that good?
Yeah, this kind of brings me back to the whole conversation of picking need versus best player available. Because this is when I brought up on my page, and some people were like, "Whoa, no way!" But for me, I would be happy if the Cowboys actually pulled the trigger and took tight end Kyle Pitts at pick 10. I would be okay with it. And that's the thing where it's like, would you rather pick a guy who has the floor of a Pro Bowler or a All-Pro talent, or would you rather pick a guy who fills the need, but he's just an average starter, So I don't know. I would be, and I think someone commented on that post saying that it would be the equivalent of passing up on Randy Moss, which we did. And it's always been the thing. He said it somewhere. I thought I pinned it, but
here we go.
Yeah, transcendent talent. It would be like Randy Moss all over again. Draft the best player available. And a lot of people agreed with that comment, and I would have to say I do too, because I think obviously in hindsight, the Cowboys wish they would have pulled the trigger on Randy Moss and just gone talent. And that's what we did with CeeDee Lamb. And it even, it even shows with that pick. We were on the clock, and wide receiver wasn't our biggest need. No. I mean, we had so many defensive players that, we needed to draft instead. But CeeDee Lamb proved that he's a great talent, and he really had some flashes this year as the third receiver without his quarterback for most of the season. So I can only imagine what his ceiling will be when he has Dak for a full year. And a lot of the defensive players who we had talked about behind him didn't really pan out the way that some players would have liked. It was a pretty poor defensive draft behind that position that we drafted in. So I definitely would take. So I think talent at the end of the day and best player available can outweigh the needs of a team in the draft.
Absolutely. So I'm just looking at the draft board from last year. So you got CeeDee Lamb at 17. The defensive players after him, Damon Arnett hasn't panned out. Kayvon Chason hasn't panned out. Kenneth Murray had some flashes, could be nice in the future. Jordan Brooks, okay, Seattle. Patrick Queen had some flashes, had a PFF grade in the 20s. Igman Agadi, super young, super raw, but I mean, he could be solid moving forward. And Jeff Gladney, he's not even the best Minnesota corner in the draft that they got. So
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Kayvon Chason was actually a guy I was pretty high on, heading into the draft, and apparently from the insiders around that draft room on Jerry's yacht, they said Jerry was really choosing between those two. It was either going to be Chason or it was going to be Lamb. And Jerry's nephew tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You got to pick CeeDee Lamb," and he chose him. So, and it ended up being the right call. Sometimes you got to do flash and best player available over position, and I think it totally worked out there. And I saw Shannon Sharp the other day, a few weeks ago, was still trying to downplay that draft pick of CeeDee Lamb, saying that they made the wrong decision. And I'm like, how can you say they made the wrong decision looking at the defensive players behind them? It's not like we passed on Chase Young for CeeDee Lamb. It's not like we passed on a good defensive talent. We, all of the players that we passed on didn't really pan out the way they were expecting. So I think Kyle Pitts, it's not my number one on the big board. I think I had him 6 behind a few defensive players, but I would definitely not be against it as some fans are. I think some fans are totally against it, and they're like, no, don't pick offense. I'm tired of our defense being terrible. And I understand that, but there's a lot of room and a lot of chances to improve the defense around that number 10 pick.
Yeah. And, even if you said, oh, Antoine Winfield at 17, that's a little rich. Or Jalen Johnson, who I love in Chicago, again, a little rich for him, or Jeremy Chin. And sometimes it's hard to connect the dots between like drafting a need, because sometimes your needs aren't like that high. And this is where teams like the Ravens, teams like the Vikings in recent years, the Cardinals in recent years, they get tremendous value more than having to fill every single need. Patrick Queen is a top 20, 25 prospect that they got at 28, or Josh Jones is a top 50 prospect that Cardinals got in the 3rd round. And that could be the difference between a really good team and like a middling team that you have like some good pieces, but also you're just kind of reaching for guys, and you're drafting Damon Arnett with the number 19 pick.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I was a big fan of Winfield heading into the draft, but if we had picked him at 17 over CeeDee Lamb, I think that would have gotten a reaction and would have raised some eyebrows going that early on him.
You could have traded down, but then you risk Philly getting CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, that was a big thing too. Philly was on the phone with Jerry trying to take that pick from us, and apparently they offered big compensation to get CD. So if we don't make that decision, you're looking at CD in an Eagles jersey right now, and then you're really wondering, man, was drafting that Caleb Von Chason, was it really worth it? And it would be obvious no at that point.
It's like, CD obviously popped as a rookie, and Caleb Von is in Jacksonville, so there's obviously problems in Jacksonville. So we can wait to see who becomes better, but I think it's pretty clear that CeeDee Lamb is going to be a perennial Pro Bowl caliber guy, and Caleb Von Chason could be good.
Yeah, it could be good, but I think if he made the Pro Bowl once or twice in his career, it'd be like already doing better than what you would expect at this point.
Right.
So,
all right, we have a couple more questions. This is from @Kane. I think that's 2 underscores E. Should we draft for Sean Slater?
This is another offensive player that the Cowboys could make a move on realistically at 10 that would not be helpful to the defense. Slater's a big offensive tackle. He weighs in at 304 pounds, and he's 6'4". He's a great athlete. I mean, he killed his pro day. He tossed up 33 bench reps and clocked in a 4.8 at the 40-yard dash, which is, very solid athleticism. And he's very technically sound, and he's very rangy on the offensive line. He's had experience playing every position on the offensive line. So he could be a guy who could start off even as a guard, on our offensive scheme. Mm-hmm. You put him at left guard, and with the durability questions and issues surrounding Tyron Smith specifically, you would have the ability to just shift Slater out there to that left tackle position and potentially be a Band-Aid for that hole. So I'm not opposed to Slater at all. I think that would be a situation where it wouldn't be flashy, it wouldn't be splashy, it wouldn't be a Jerry Jones type of move to make. But he did something like that where he passed on Johnny Manziel for Zach Martin And that raised some eyebrows from Cowboys fans, but that ended up being probably the best decision he's ever made in the draft. So
that's one of the best picks in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That's an incredible.
And I can fully admit on my end that I was wrong about that, because I was kind of, it was near the end of Romo. It seemed like the end of Romo's time, and I was like, bringing a Texas A&M guy back to Texas, Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, it just sounded so great. And when they announced that Zach Martin, guard out of Notre Dame, I was just like, man. No. I was like, no, but Zach Martin has been as perfect as you can get in the National Football League. And I think right next to Quentin Nelson, he's the best guard in the league. So I would definitely say that worked out.
Yeah, sometimes the sturdy player is better than the sexy pick. I remember when the Ravens were like 5th, 6th pick in the draft. I'm like, I don't want to take Tunsil. I don't want to take Stanley. I want to take like Vernon Hargreaves or some Ezekiel Elliott or whatever. And it's like, oh, hey, guess what? Ronnie Stanley's an all-pro tackle. And Laramie Tunsil's pretty doggone good himself.
Yeah, sometimes, sometimes offensive line, it's not the sexiest pick, but it can really be the most impactful for a team. So I think Slater would definitely be a very impactful pick, and I would not be against it.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the wide receiver core for Dallas. We have Cooper, we have Lamb, we have Gallup, and this question is from @Papa212. Wide receiver 4, Cedric Wilson or Noah Brown?
So they're both great at different things. I think for what they do, Noah Brown is he has great size, and he's a very good run blocker at the wide receiver position. You'll see him come in on a lot of run packages, and if he's on the field, most of the time it's a run. That's what it seems to be. Even though last year he did do a little bit in the receiving game. He did the most he's done in his career so far. Wilson had a monster game against Seattle this past year with a healthy Dak. And that was really his breakout game. He had 5 receptions for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that was really like, wow, having that as your 4th receiver, behind Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb, I think that would totally. So I think Wilson's a better receiver threat. So probably he'd be on the field more for passing situations, but I think Brown is a much better run blocker. And turns out actually today, it looks like we're going to have both back next season. Noah Brown, it just came out actually a few minutes before the stream that Noah Brown signed a 1-year deal to come back to the Cowboys. And the Cowboys officially placed their tender on Cedric Wilson, which is about $2 million. It takes up about $2 million in cap space if no one decides to sign him and take him off the team. So it looks like we'll have both back. Probably, and I think that's good. I think that's good depth behind that 3-headed monster we have at the wide receiver position.
I love me some Cedric Wilson. I'm a Boise State fan. I'm sure someone in this stream knew that. So it was a big star up in Boise, and now he's flashing in the NFL, which I love to see, because now Boise State didn't play this year. So it's like, might as well watch this random wide receiver for the Cowboys ball out, because the linebacker for the Cowboys isn't balling out.
Yeah. I was definitely happy about the pick back in the draft. I thought that was a very, it was a sneaky good pick that late in the draft. And unfortunately, injuries kind of held him back his first year in the league. But last year being healthy with Dak, he really played well.
Absolutely. So I'm going to scan through the comments, see if we have any comment questions. This is from John. I'm not even going to try your last name, John K. Farley fits the scheme better, but personally, I want J.C. Horn. We need a physical corner to change the culture on this defense. What are your thoughts?
I really like J.C. Horn. I like J.C. Horn a lot, but I would put him as my cornerback 30. I would. Farley's far more athletic. He has better size. I think he has the higher ceiling between those guys. One thing about Horn is he's very handsy in coverage. He I think he'll certainly draw a lot of penalties in the NFL, which I also think can be coached. I mean, it can definitely be coached and it can be improved upon. But when it comes to those 3, I would definitely I would have Horn 3rd. I wouldn't be upset with Horn. I would want him later in the draft, though. I'm not sure if 10. Like, I don't know if picking him 10 over the prospects that could be on the board there would necessarily be the right move.
Yeah, I think his natural sweet spot is like 16 to Arizona. That seems pretty safe to me. Like before 16, would rather Tanner Farley. Even though I love Horn, I think Horn could be your cornerback one. I'm not going to be mad, but 16 is a little rich. Sorry, 10 is a little rich. I think his sweet spot is like 16 to 20. He's the guy that the Jets could go after if he falls to 23. Or Asante Samuel. I like the same with the Jets. So this is from Connor Lee. I feel like a Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas reunion would be a good mentorship for the young guys. They have both played under Dan Quinn in the Legion of Boom. Do you see the Cowboys grabbing one of them?
Man, Earl Thomas is just it never ends with the Cowboys. That has been I have no problem with the comment though, because I was pushing for Earl Thomas all last season when we were having safety issues, and I was wondering why aren't the Cowboys doing anything about it with him right there. I would be perfectly fine with that. I think that it would be good mentorship, and I think that even if those guys are nowhere near what they were as the Legion of Boom talent-wise, I definitely think for a young secondary and for a secondary that needs mentorship, I mean, what two better guys to teach them and to make them be better, and I feel like Richard Sherman is probably a more likely scenario than Earl Thomas. I think if Earl Thomas was going to be a Cowboy, it would have been done by now. It seemed so likely at one point, but Jerry Jones, for whatever reason, just didn't make the decision. So
yeah, it happens. Maybe it was some off the field stuff. That's why Baltimore cut him. So maybe you don't want to touch that ticking time bomb.
It doesn't sound very much like Jerry Jones, though. Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones likes to make that. So.
That's valid. So yes, it's a interesting time for Dallas. Interesting time for Earl Thomas. So thank you for coming on, and we'll be back next week. So
thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Any final words?
I just want to say thank you for everyone who was watching the stream, and thank you for all those questions that you guys submitted. I really loved answering, and I'm hoping I can be on again next week to be interactive with you guys some more. And thank you, Splash, for having me.
Yeah, of course. And so Julian says, do a mock.
I'm planning on doing that. Yeah, I've been waiting a little bit because I wanted to see, pro days, and I wanted to see where the stocks would be at. I wanted a better answer, but I will certainly do a mock, Julian. It'll be up fairly soon, I promise.
See, I think it'd be fun to do with like a live mock. Like if we got awesome. PFF, like I have a PFF subscription and just run through that. That'd be cool. Maybe we can do that.
Totally do that. Yeah. I mean, even doing that next show with just me, or if we could even get the other mega fans in on one stream.
Now we're talking. Yes,
that would be insane.
Because I can get up to 10. So maybe we get like 8 mega fans in, and I'm like moderating the draft.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome. That would be totally cool.
That's a great idea. Send that to Frankie. We're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like this. Make sure you like the stream, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. There's another one. I'm forgetting what it is.
I posted on my Instagram. I'm gonna post a link on my Instagram story for all my followers.
Twitch. Twitch is the other one. So Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. Drop a like. Subscribe to the channel for more content. We have another show coming up tonight, which is exciting. We have it for today. So thank you, Dallas Cowboys squad. Should be back next Monday after the Cowboys sign every free agent available, right?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll have a lot to talk about then.
Absolutely. I will see you guys. Peace out.
All right, see you.